Nigeria is once again standing at the center of a debate that refuses to go away. A debate about faith, a debate about justice, and a debate about the kind of country Nigerians want to build. For more than 2 decades, Sharia law has operated in parts of northern Nigeria, shaping the lives of millions of Muslim citizens. Supporters say it protects religious freedom and moral order. Critics say it exposes serious weaknesses in governance and fairness. Now the pressure is coming from every direction. International voices are questioning it, political groups inside the country are arguing about it, and communities across Nigeria are watching closely. Some want the system reformed, others want it abolished, and at the same time, there are voices pushing to expand it into new regions. So the question now facing the nation is simple but deeply sensitive. Is Nigeria's Sharia system under threat? Or is it quietly growing stronger? This is Naija Update 24/7, examining the politics, the tensions, and the national conversations surrounding Sharia law in Nigeria. To understand the current controversy, one must first understand how Sharia operates within Nigeria's legal system today. Sharia law is active in 12 northern states, including Zamfara, Kano, Sokoto, Kaduna, Katsina, and Bauchi. In these states, Sharia courts handle legal matters involving Muslims. These cases often include issues of marriage, divorce, inheritance, family disputes, and in some states, criminal matters. But contrary to what many people outside Nigeria believe, Sharia is not operating outside the law. It exists within the country's constitutional framework. Section 275 of Nigeria's 1999 Constitution allows states to establish Sharia courts of appeal. This means the system is legally recognized as part of Nigeria's complex judicial structure. However, there is an important condition. Sharia is intended to apply only to Muslims who voluntarily submit to the system. Non-Muslims are not supposed to be forced into Sharia courts or punished under Sharia law. In theory, this arrangement protects religious freedom while maintaining Nigeria's identity as a multi-religious nation. But in practice, the situation is far more complicated. Because despite the constitutional protections, critics say the system has serious weaknesses, and those criticisms are becoming louder with each passing year. Among the most persistent criticisms is the issue of selective enforcement. Across several northern communities, some observers believe the law is not always applied equally. There is a growing perception that strict punishments are often directed toward the poor, while influential individuals rarely face the same consequences. In various reported cases, people accused of petty theft or moral offenses have faced harsh legal outcomes. These cases often attract public attention, especially when they involve individuals struggling with poverty or limited access to legal defense. But when allegations involve powerful figures, wealthy business owners, political actors, or individuals connected to government structures, prosecutions are far less visible. Whether this perception reflects reality in every case is still debated, but the belief itself has created discomfort in many communities, because justice in any system is expected to be impartial. And when citizens begin to feel that the law treats different people differently, trust begins to erode. This is the question that now echoes quietly across parts of northern Nigeria. Is Nigeria's Sharia justice truly equal for everyone? Or is it fall more heavily on those with the least power? For many ordinary Nigerians living under the system, the answer remains uncertain. Interestingly, some concerns about the system are not coming only from critics. Even within the Sharia judicial structure, several judges and legal scholars have spoken openly about the challenges facing the country's courts. They point to slow legal processes, administrative delays, corruption concerns, and limited institutional capacity. These weaknesses are not unique to Sharia courts. They exist across Nigeria's broader judicial system, but their impact can be particularly serious in regions already struggling with security issues. When communities feel that legal systems cannot resolve disputes quickly or fairly, frustration begins to grow. And in places where insecurity already exists, from banditry to communal violence, that frustration can easily deepen social tensions. Some analysts believe this gap between citizens and the justice system is contributing to the wider instability seen in parts of the country. When people lose faith in institutions, they often begin searching for alternative forms of order. And that reality makes the conversation around Sharia far more complex than it appears on the surface. The political dimension of the debate became even more visible recently. The Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, an influential Islamic body, publicly expressed disappointment with the current federal administration. This moment carried particular weight because the council had previously supported the political coalition that won the last presidential election. At the time, many observers believed that the alignment of certain religious and political interests might lead to stronger cooperation between religious institutions and the federal government. But expectations have not always matched reality. According to the council, economic hardship remains a serious concern for many Nigerians. They pointed specifically to rising unemployment, persistent inflation, and the growing difficulty many families face in meeting basic needs. These concerns are not limited to any one region or religious group. They reflect a national economic challenge affecting citizens across the country. However, when religious organizations begin to publicly question the performance of political leadership, it sends a powerful message because it suggests that political alliances built during elections do not automatically translate into long-term satisfaction. For many Nigerians, the moment highlighted a deeper truth. Religious identity in leadership may influence political alliances, but it does not automatically solve economic problems. And as frustrations over governance continue to grow, the national conversation around law, justice, and leadership becomes even more intense. The debate about Sharia, therefore, is no longer just about religious law. It is also connected to broader questions about accountability, governance, and the expectations citizens place on those who lead them. Another area drawing attention is the role of Hisbah, the religious enforcement groups operating in some northern states. Hisbah officers are tasked with encouraging moral conduct in accordance with Islamic principles. In many communities, they play roles similar to social regulators, working to discourage activities considered un-Islamic. Supporters argue that Hisbah helps maintain social discipline and protect community values. But critics say some enforcement actions have become controversial, especially among young Nigerians. Reports have emerged of restrictions on certain hairstyles, clothing styles, and youth fashion trends. In some cases, women have been cautioned about using mobile phones or appearing in public in ways considered inappropriate under strict interpretations of moral codes. These actions have sparked debate, particularly on social media. Many young people see such restrictions as a clash between traditional authority and modern lifestyle. Others believe they represent an important effort to preserve cultural and religious values. The disagreement reflects a broader generational tension. Nigeria is a young country with a large population under the age of 30. And as younger citizens interact with global culture through technology and social media, their expectations of personal freedom continue to evolve. This makes the conversation around moral enforcement even more sensitive. While debates continue inside Nigeria, the issue has also attracted attention beyond the country's borders. Recently, a United States congressional panel recommended that Nigeria consider repealing certain Sharia-related laws, particularly those involving blasphemy. The recommendation was based on concerns about religious freedom and the possibility that such laws could be misused against minority groups. But the reaction inside Nigeria was swift and firm. several Islamic organizations rejected the suggestion outright. They argued that foreign governments should not interfere in Nigerians' internal legal arrangements. For many religious leaders, the recommendation was seen as political pressure rather than genuine concern. They insisted that Nigeria, as a sovereign nation, must determine its own legal and cultural path. This response reflects a long-standing sensitivity within Nigerian politics. Many citizens strongly defend the idea that external powers should not dictate domestic policies. The movement therefore expanded the conversation beyond law. It became a debate about sovereignty and national dignity. While some voices are calling for reform or repeal, others are pushing in the opposite direction. Certain Islamic groups have proposed establishing Sharia courts in parts of southwestern Nigeria, particularly for civil matters involving Muslim communities. But the proposal has triggered strong reactions in other regions. Political leaders in the southeast and parts of the south-south have warned that introducing Sharia structures into predominantly Christian areas could create serious tensions. Some fear that even if the courts are voluntary, the move could deepen religious divisions in an already fragile political environment. Nigeria's diversity has always required careful balancing. The country is home to hundreds of ethnic groups and multiple religious traditions. Any change in the legal landscape, therefore, has implications far beyond the courtroom. And that is why the conversation continues to generate intense emotions on all sides. The debate over Sharia law in Nigeria is not simply a legal argument. It is a reflection of deeper national questions. Questions about identity, questions about fairness, questions about how religion and modern governance can coexist in a diverse democracy. For supporters, Sharia represents the right of Muslims to live according to their faith within a constitutional framework. For critics, the concern is whether the system can fully align with principles of equal justice and national unity. Between these two positions lies a complicated national reality. Nigeria is a country built on diversity, negotiation, and constant political dialogue, and the future of Sharia within that system will likely depend on how carefully leaders manage the balance between faith, law, and social harmony. Because in a nation as complex as Nigeria, the true challenge is not simply deciding which laws to follow. The real challenge is ensuring that every citizen, regardless of religion, wealth, or region, feels that justice belongs to them. That conversation is still unfolding, and its outcome will shape Nigeria's political future for many years to come. The debate around Sharia in Nigeria becomes even more complex when attention turns to the activities of Hisbah. In several northern states, Hisbah operates as a religious enforcement body. Its members are tasked with encouraging compliance with Islamic moral standards in communities where Sharia is active. To supporters, Hisbah represents something deeply important. They see it as a guardian of social values, a group that protects communities from behaviors believed to threaten religious discipline and cultural identity. In cities like Kano and parts of Jigawa and Sokoto, Hisbah officers patrol markets, streets, and public spaces. Their presence is visible, sometimes welcomed, sometimes quietly questioned. But in recent years, certain enforcement actions have triggered growing controversy. Reports have circulated about young men being stopped because of hairstyles considered un-Islamic. Others have been warned over sagging trousers or fashion styles seen as imported from Western culture. In some areas, women have reportedly been advised against using mobile phones openly in certain public settings. In other cases, sunglasses, makeup, or modern fashion trends have drawn criticism from enforcement patrols. For older generations who worry about the erosion of traditional values, these actions are seen as necessary. But for many young Nigerians, especially those connected to global culture through smartphones and social media, these restrictions feel different. They feel like pressure. A pressure to live within a strict interpretation of identity that may not reflect the changing realities of modern Nigerian life. Social media has intensified the conversation. Short videos, photos, and personal accounts now spread quickly across platforms, bringing local incidents into national and international view within minutes. What might once have remained a quiet community dispute can now spark nationwide debate overnight. And with every viral story, the country is reminded of a deeper tension. Nigeria is a young nation with a rapidly changing society. More than half of its population is under 30. These young citizens are growing up in a world shaped by global music, international fashion, digital communication, and exposure to ideas far beyond their immediate communities. Yet, many of them also belong to deeply religious families and cultural traditions that value moral discipline and social order. The result is a quiet but powerful cultural struggle, a struggle between preservation and adaptation, between the desire to hold firmly to tradition and the natural movement of society toward change. In the middle of this struggle stands Hisbah. For some, it represents protection. For others, it represents control. And this tension adds another layer to Nigeria's ongoing conversation about Sharia law. Because the question is no longer only about courts and legal codes. It is also about everyday life, about how people dress, speak, and express themselves in public spaces, and about who ultimately decides where the line between faith and personal freedom should be drawn. International pressure. While these debates continue inside Nigeria, the issue has increasingly attracted attention beyond the country's borders. In recent months, a United States congressional panel publicly recommended that Nigeria consider repealing certain Sharia and blasphemy laws. The recommendation was framed as a human rights concern. Members of the panel expressed worry that blasphemy laws could be used to silence religious minorities or inflame tensions in already sensitive communities. They also warned that extremist groups could exploit such legal structures to justify violence or intimidation. The message from Washington was direct. If Nigeria wishes to strengthen its democratic reputation and international partnerships, some lawmakers believe legal reforms may be necessary. But the reaction from Nigerian Islamic leaders was immediate and firm. Organizations such as the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria and the Nigeria Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs rejected the recommendation outright. To them, the suggestion was not simply a legal opinion. It was seen as an intrusion, a foreign government attempting to influence Nigeria's internal cultural and religious systems. Their response carried a strong tone of national sovereignty. They argued that Nigeria is a diverse nation with its own constitutional structures and its own historical experiences. Any decision about Sharia law must be made within Nigeria's democratic processes, not under pressure from international actors. For many Nigerians, this reaction resonated deeply. Nigeria's political history is shaped by decades of struggle for independence, self-determination, and national pride. The idea that outside governments might dictate internal policy often triggers strong resistance across the political spectrum. Even Nigerians who question aspects of Sharia law sometimes agree on one point: the decision must remain Nigerian. This moment, therefore, expanded the debate. It was no longer just a discussion about religion or law. It became a conversation about sovereignty, dignity, and the right of a nation to define its own path. Nigeria's future is shaped by the decisions we make and the conversations we are willing to have. If you care about the truth behind Nigeria's politics, religion, and national direction, then this channel is for you. Subscribe to Naija Update 24/7, like this video, and share it with others who want to stay informed about the real issues affecting our country. Stay informed, stay engaged. Nigeria's story concerns all of us. While international voices call for caution or reform, another movement inside Nigeria is pushing in a very different direction. Some Islamic leaders and organizations believe Sharia should not remain limited to northern states alone. They argue that Muslim communities exist throughout the country, including in the southwest. And those communities, they say, should have access to Sharia courts for civil matters such as marriage, divorce, and inheritance. One of the states frequently mentioned in these discussions is Oyo. Supporters of the proposal say the courts would be voluntary and limited to Muslims who choose to use them. They argue that such arrangements already exist in northern Nigeria and function within the constitutional framework. But in Nigeria's complex religious landscape, proposals rarely remain purely legal discussions. They quickly become political. Leaders in several southern and southeastern regions have expressed concern about the idea. Some worry that even voluntary courts could deepen religious divisions or trigger political tension in communities where Christianity is the dominant faith. Political figures have warned that introducing Sharia structures into new regions must be approached carefully. Nigeria's history includes moments when religious misunderstandings quickly escalated into broader conflict. Memories of those tensions remain fresh in many communities. For leaders responsible for maintaining stability, the possibility of renewed religious friction is taken seriously. Supporters of the expansion, however, argue that denying Muslims access to religious courts in the south could itself create feelings of marginalization. They frame the issue as one of equal rights. If Christian communities can organize their religious affairs freely, they argue, Muslim communities should also have that space. Once again, Nigeria finds itself navigating a delicate balance. A balance between freedom of religion and national unity, between cultural expression and political stability. And as these conversations continue quietly in legal forums, mosques, churches, and political offices, the future direction of Sharia in Nigeria remains uncertain. The debate surrounding Sharia law is not simply a legal question. It touches the deepest layers of Nigerian society: faith, identity, justice, power. For millions of Muslims, Sharia represents a way of life rooted in spiritual guidance and moral responsibility. It is part of family traditions passed down across generations. For others, the concern lies in ensuring that any legal system operating within a modern democracy remains consistent with principles of fairness, equality, and human rights. Both perspectives carry weight. Both reflect real experiences within Nigeria's diverse population. And this is why the conversation continues with such intensity. Because Nigeria is not a nation built on uniformity. It is a nation built on negotiation, on constant dialogue between different beliefs, cultures, and historical experiences. The challenge facing the country today is the same challenge it has faced since independence: how to hold together a society rich in diversity while ensuring that every citizen feels protected by the same sense of justice. The outcome of this debate will not come quickly, but the conversations happening today will shape Nigeria's political and cultural future for years to come. Nigeria remains a nation of many religions, many cultures, and many voices. But one question continues to spark strong opinions across the country. Should Sharia remain exactly as it is? Should it be reformed, or should it eventually be removed from the legal system entirely? The conversation is ongoing, and every Nigerian perspective matters. Share your thoughts in the comments. And for deeper political analysis and real Nigerian stories shaping the nation today, subscribe to Naija Update 24/7 and turn on notifications so you never miss the next major story.